Today's guest is Natalie Jurado. She is the founder of Rooted In, a line of therapeutic magnesium. She's a sought after leader, educator, and speaker, and has worked at the forefront of the wellness industry for over 8 years. She's considered an expert on all things magnesium. I learned so much from her today during this podcast about magnesium, uses, benefits, and how I can incorporate it more in my daily life. I can't wait for you to hear from Natalie. I've got a question for you. Who's the person you're being? Are you satisfied? It's okay. This is a judge-free zone, and it's exactly why I started the show. Welcome to Be the Person, a podcast for the brave and the curious who are ready to explore who they are fully created to be. I'm your host, Randall, the adventurous one leading this investigative journey of transformation. By delving into topics and asking unexpected questions, we will discover the keys for unlocking our true potential and being our best selves today. You may be surprised by what you find when you let go of fear in order to discover the answers of becoming the person you were made to be. Welcome to Be the Person podcast. I'm excited to talk to our magnesium expert today, Natalie Jurado. When I found Natalie, I was really interested in the topic and wanted to learn more about it. So wanted to record this conversation. I'm excited today. Welcome, Natalie, to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me on. I'm so excited to talk about my absolute favorite topic, magnesium.
You know, when I found you, I didn't know there was even such a thing as a magnesium expert. But I was like, wow, I started taking a couple different kinds. It's something I wanted to learn more about. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you become the magnesium expert?
Well, like all things, it always stems from a problem, right? All great things start with a problem. So it was about 8 to 9 years ago that I was struggling with, terrible insomnia, awful anxiety. I had panic attacks on a regular basis. And I was really, really in it. I was in a dark place, really struggling. And so I was doing everything that you're supposed to do. So I was eating a whole foods, plant based, organic diet. I was regularly exercising. I was making lifestyle modifications to really support my mental health, but yet I was really, really struggling. I just couldn't fall asleep and I couldn't get over this anxiety. So I did what any normal person would do. And I went right to the doctor and said, Doc, I need you to help me out. Right. And she offered me just a litany of blood work, like so much blood tests. I felt like a human pincushion. And she sat me down at the end of the day and she went over all the blood work with me. She looked me straight in the face and she said, There's nothing wrong with you. She's like, You're totally healthy. Your blood work is perfect. She's like, You're one of my healthiest patients. And then she sent me on my way, telling me it was all in my head. And this is what happens when you become a woman of a certain age. That was so frustrating. Because on one side, I felt like, great, my blood work is wonderful. But on the other side, I still felt terrible. So I kept searching and researching and learning everything I could to try and figure out what was the root cause of what I was dealing with. And I stumbled upon magnesium. Within 1 week of taking magnesium, I went from sleeping 2 hours a night to sleeping 6 hours a night, which was huge. My anxiety went away, my panic attacks were gone, and I thought, what is up with this mineral? Wait, what is this magic that I'm taking? Like, what is this all about? And I've made it my mission to really educate as many people as possible about just how powerful magnesium is and all the different ways we can apply it in our lives.
Wow, that's such an incredible story. And I think so many times, everything shows up fine on blood work or different tests, but we know inside that it's not. And I'm glad you kept researching to figure out what was going on.
Absolutely. I definitely, what I learned most from that whole experience is to not settle for another person's version of normal. The doctor's like, this is normal. Well, it's not normal for me. This is not my normal. So, if you're ever in that circumstance, don't settle for somebody else's normal.
So good. Well, talk to us a little bit about magnesium. Like, why is it important to the body? And then some of the benefits.
Absolutely. So, magnesium is involved in over 700 different biochemical reactions in our body. So, when you're not getting enough of it, it's affecting all of these different systems all at once. Magnesium is also present in every single one of our trillions of cells. And without it, we would cease to live. Like it's that vital of a mineral. And what happens is when we start feeling what magnesium deficiency feels like, it's almost like a domino. It's like one thing hits another, hits another, hits another. And it's because magnesium has its hands, has its reach in all of our cells. So, what a typical magnesium deficient person looks like, it's a person who's dealing with chronic headaches. Like they're constantly dealing with headaches all the time. They're having a hard time sleeping. Their muscles are twitching. They have muscle cramps all the time. They might have restless leg at nighttime. They are dealing with anxiety and stress that just will not go away despite all of their interventions. They have high blood pressure and high cholesterol because magnesium is tied to both of those as well. So, all of these symptoms are like a ton of symptoms that are associated with magnesium deficiency. And it's very common. Close to 70% of the population struggles to get enough magnesium every single day.
Wow. And if you're thinking about foods, I know that we can supplement and we'll talk about that, but let's talk about foods that have magnesium. Can you give me some of those?
Absolutely. So, foods that are high in magnesium include your dark green leafy vegetables, your nuts, your seeds like chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, and even dark chocolate. Dark chocolate actually has a good amount of magnesium in it as well. So, I always like to tell people your diet is your first line of defense against any kind of nutrient deficiency. You absolutely cannot supplement your way out of a bad diet. You can't eat pizza and french fries and drink beer all day and then expect to take a magnesium supplement so that you can sleep at night. It just doesn't work that way. Our diet is absolutely foundational.
Agree. I'm actually glad you said dark chocolate though. It's one of my favorites and I didn't know magnesium was in there.
Yeah, it's funny because when people what I often find happen with people is we'll see a lot of chocoholics. So people who are like eating chocolate all day long, especially women, especially around our cycle, we tend to eat a lot of chocolate. And then they start supplementing with magnesium and they start to see that those chocolate cravings start to go away. So magnesium can kind of indirectly help with our waistline in that way.
Interesting. Well, I know there's a lot of different forms of magnesium, and honestly, this has been confusing for me. Can you tell a little bit about the differences and what to look for?
Absolutely. So, this is what I think the biggest hurdle is for people supplementing with magnesium. So, like, they'll hear about magnesium, like on a podcast, like they do today, and they're excited about using it. And so they run out to their local health food store. They see this giant aisle of like magnesium products, right? And they're like, I don't know which one to take. There's so many types. In reality, there's over 14 different types of magnesium, and each one of them has their own pros and cons, their good parts and their drawbacks, right? So let's talk specifically about oral supplements. So these are your pills and your powders. When it comes to oral supplements, the one thing that I hope everybody gets from this episode, that I hope the biggest takeaway that I hope everybody gets is that magnesium oxide, which is the most commonly prescribed by doctors, it's the most common one that you're going to find in health food stores. It's the cheapest form of magnesium out there. It's called magnesium oxide and it does not absorb well in our bodies. It should be avoided by just about everybody. You see, magnesium oxide only absorbs at a rate of 4%, which means the other 96% is going to go right through your digestive tract, right out the other end. And for most people, it'll have you stuck in the bathroom all day. And nobody wants that, right? So magnesium oxide is the one that you should absolutely avoid. So there are great forms of magnesium that do absorb well, that don't cause tummy troubles, that can give you some great benefits. And some of those include magnesium glycinate. That one is typically taken by people who have a hard time falling asleep at night. It's a great one to take right as you're hopping into bed as you're preparing for nighttime. Magnesium malate is another wonderful one. A lot of people will take that during the day because it helps with with muscle pain and with fatigue. So that's a really great one as well. Another one is magnesium threonate. That one's really popular. It helps with brain health and memory. and foggy mindedness. That one's a really good one to take as well. So there are some great forms, and then there are some forms that are just not so great, like magnesium oxide. And I do have a magnesium types cheat sheet that I printed up. It's absolutely free, and it's free to anybody who would like to download it. And it gives you an ability to just print out that one page, take it with you to the health food store, and choose which one you want to take.
Oh, so good. I'll make sure I link to that in the show notes because I think that will be helpful to so many people. Does it matter if you take a powder versus a pill, or do you find that those are kind of the same?
Yeah, they're both the same. On in both of them, however, you wanna make sure that there are no artificial fillers in them, especially with the powders. They tend to add a lot of, like, artificial sweeteners and, sometimes they'll add dyes and stuff like that in there, so we always wanna avoid those kind of yucky fillers that do more harm than good. So, not only do you wanna make sure you're getting an adequate amount of magnesium in your supplement, but you wanna make sure that you're not getting, like, yucky GMO kind of products or artificial fillers and dyes and stuff like that. So keep an eye out for those.
Oh, good point. And what about like how much you should take? Does it depend on the type?
So yeah, that right there is the question of the day. So when it comes to magnesium, the RDA, the recommended daily allowance that you're supposed to be getting every single day at a minimum is 350 to 400 milligrams a day. And that's of elemental magnesium. So elemental magnesium is the actual amount of magnesium that's in your product. And it should be on the back of your supplement label, particularly where it says percent daily value. You want to look for a magnesium supplement that has anywhere from 60 to 80% of your daily value for the day. So if you keep it on that guideline, you're going to be getting a good amount of magnesium. And the expectation is that you eat lots of those green leafy vegetables, nuts, and seeds to make up for the difference, right? But the one caveat, the one fine print, the one asterisk that I want to say is that the RDA was created to keep healthy people healthy, right? So if you are dealing with magnesium deficiency and you're struggling to sleep, you're getting muscle cramps, you're feeling anxious all the time, that amount might not be enough to make up for the deficiency that you're dealing with. Of course, I always want to tell people to meet with their healthcare practitioner or their doctor, physician, nutritionist, whoever they're working with, to make sure that taking more than the RDA for magnesium is good for you.
Yeah, good point. What about is magnesium a blood test? And then is there a pretty broad range? I know a lot of times you can be in the normal range, quote, but it's still not the optimal range. What have you found there?
Oh, I love that you're asking this question. This is such an important thing to realize. So, when it comes to magnesium, about 60% of it is stored in your bones. The other 40% is stored in your muscles, your tissues, and your organs, leaving less than 1% stored in your blood. So, what happens is oftentimes we're going to go to our physician. We're going to say, Doc, I think I am magnesium deficient. I need a test. And the doctor's going to order what's called a magnesium serum test. And he's going to be looking at your blood. So, unfortunately, it's not an accurate test of true magnesium deficiency and magnesium status in our body. In fact, the National Institute of Health came out and publicly said there is no adequate test for magnesium deficiency as of right now. So that can kind of throw a wrench in the problem because if you're thinking, well, if I'm magnesium deficient, how on earth am I even going to know? And the way that the National Institute of Health recommends is to go based off of your symptoms. So if you are presenting with that hard time sleeping and those restless legs and those muscle twitching and that fatigue during the day and the high blood pressure that's just really hard to control, then go ahead and take magnesium. If you find that those symptoms go away, then you know that you're just magnesium deficient and you should continue using magnesium. The beautiful thing, and this is one thing that people get scared of all the time, but the beautiful thing about magnesium is it's a mineral. It's not a drug, right? So it's present in our foods. You don't have to worry about, getting addicted to it or going through withdrawal symptoms or anything like that. It's actually a very safe mineral to take.
Okay, I didn't know that. I was thinking it was a blood test, so I'm really glad you clarified that. As a busy mom and entrepreneur, eating healthy can sometimes be hard. But Thrive Market is one of the places I love to shop because they make it super simple, deliver right to your house. They have snacks, staples, everything that you need to be healthy at very competitive pricing. They are offering our listeners 40% off your first order. That link is in the show notes. Check it out today. I take magnesium for sleep, and I didn't have a test or anything, but I heard it could help with sleep. I struggle sometimes with sleep, and I took it and I noticed a difference. And it's funny when you do that, then you're like, "Oh yeah, I definitely need to keep taking this." So even when I travel, I'm like, "Oh, I got to have my magnesium with me."
Yep, and that's what happens for so many people. They are introduced to magnesium because it helps them with sleep, right? So, people are tired of taking melatonin. That's the go-to for most people. They're like, "Oh, you can't sleep. You go ahead and take melatonin." But the problem with melatonin is it's a hormone, and we don't like messing with hormones. At least me personally, I don't think it's safe to mess with our hormones. The other problem with melatonin is that when you take it, your body becomes dependent on it and stops producing melatonin on its own. So you wind up really kind of doing some long-term damage. With magnesium, there's no dependency. It's a mineral that we have to replenish on a daily basis. So oftentimes people will start taking that magnesium because they're having a hard time sleeping and somebody told them it might help. They start feeling better and then they start noticing all these other symptoms in their life start to get better. Their toes aren't cramping up after a workout, or they have more energy during the day, or that twitching eye muscle starts, it goes away. And they're like, okay, well, maybe this really is helping, and they start to see the benefits in all different areas of their life.
Funny because my mom had that. She had an eye twitch, and that's what it was. It was magnesium deficient.
Yeah.
So crazy.
And it's so common. I mean, 70% of our population fails to get enough magnesium because it is really hard to get enough through your diet alone. I am, I eat really clean. I get all my vegetables in, but in order to get enough magnesium, you'd have to eat 10 cups of raw spinach. And I mean, I love salads, but I don't eat 10 cups of raw spinach every single day. So like our fruits, our vegetables aren't as high in magnesium now as they were 50 or even 100 years ago because our farming practices have really, really changed over the past, couple decades. Our farmers are trying to make more produce, keep it in season longer, ship it across the country, and that really depletes the mineral and nutritional value. So we're starting to see that show up in people because we're not getting the nutrition that we absolutely need from our food.
Yeah. And what about as far as like sports recovery? Because a lot of our listeners, they're really active, they're a healthy community, they work out. Have you seen benefits there?
Absolutely. So magnesium is involved with energy production in the cell. So many people see that when they use magnesium, their endurance and performance actually increases, right? So they have more energy, they're able to kind of go longer, go farther, that type of thing. The other thing that we notice when using magnesium is the fact that magnesium helps remove lactic acid from the muscle. So it helps with post workout recovery. It helps get rid of that soreness that we see in our joints and our muscles after a hard workout. And it allows us to get right back in the gym so much faster because we're not crazy sore the next day. So it really does play an incredible role. And what I see most of the time, particularly in athletes, is after a hard workout, you've got a really good session going on, they go home and then their calves start cramping up, or their quads start cramping up, and they're feeling all this tightness in their muscles. And oftentimes it's because they're not getting enough magnesium. So what they do is they go and grab an electrolyte drink. They're grabbing a Propel or a Gatorade or that type of thing to try and replenish their electrolytes. Well, those drinks have a good amount of sodium and potassium in them, but they don't have magnesium in it. So your electrolyte drinks are not going to make up for your magnesium deficiency. You have to really go after that magnesium.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was looking at my electrolyte. I take Element typically when I work out, and that one does have magnesium. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I know I've tried Element before. What I love about Element is that it's got a great sodium amount of sodium in there. So
Mhm.
that's what I really think is great. The one that I've actually found that has even more potassium and even more magnesium in it is the Jigsaw. Jigsaw makes a really good electrolyte powder. They call it their pickleball complex or pickleball by Jigsaw, and that one has an even stronger amount of magnesium in there. So, but yeah, the Element one is a good brand as well. But a lot of the other ones on the market, they don't have, like, especially the ones that you'll get at the grocery store, they don't have magnesium in it, and that's a key component to that muscle recovery.
Absolutely. What about mental health? This isn't something I really know a lot about, and I was really interested to ask you. Does it affect mental health?
It sure does. Magnesium plays a role in not only our physical health, but also our mental health. So, magnesium, there has been incredible studies linking a magnesium deficiency to things like major depression and anxiety. And in the studies, they're showing that when the participants were given more magnesium, that their symptoms improved dramatically. Now, I'm not saying that magnesium is the cure for depression or anxiety, and I'm not telling people to get off their medication. That's not what I'm saying, but I am saying it is a tool in the toolbox because in order to really address mental health issues, there's a toolbox. It's a little bit of everything. It's therapy, it's lifestyle, and it is nutrition as well. And so, one of the ways that magnesium really helps, particularly with stress and anxiety, is that it lowers our cortisol levels. So, our cortisol is our stress hormone. And I mean, who on earth is not stressed nowadays? Like, our lifestyles are so busy. And so, having a tool in your toolbox that can help you control that stress response that we have in our body is just incredible thing to have on the ready whenever you're feeling stressed.
Yeah, and that cortisol is so important. I didn't realize that magnesium lowers cortisol because a lot of people we deal with, they're here like at Orange Theory for weight loss, and they really struggle, even though they're doing the right things because they have really high cortisol levels. And then it's really hard to get your insulin levels down at that point.
Yep, absolutely. Cortisol plays a huge role in weight loss. Magnesium also plays an incredible role in insulin balance as well. So, people ask all the time. They're like, can magnesium help with weight loss? Well, not directly. It's not like Ozempic. It's not going to turn off your hunger hormones. But what it will do is it not only help regulate your cortisol, it'll also help with estrogen dominance. A lot of women deal with this hormonal imbalance, this estrogen dominance. And the higher your estrogen is, the it just makes it near impossible to lose weight. So magnesium actually helps clear excess estrogen in the liver. Magnesium helps balance insulin and helps with insulin resistance as well. So we see all of these beautiful side effects, I guess we can say, from magnesium that can also help aid in the weight loss process.
So good. Yeah, I'm a big believer. I started just experimenting with myself. That's typically what I do when I see something. And I did it for sleep. But then after workout, I noticed like it made a difference and just different types that I've tried. Now I know you have a company that does a topical product. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the product that I created about 2 years ago, and I created it because I noticed there was a huge hole in the market. So, magnesium, oral supplements are amazing, and they're an amazing way to really address deficiencies in our diet. But when you use magnesium topically, you can really isolate it to the places where you need it to be. So, for example, if you're dealing with calf cramps, your calf keeps cramping up on you after a workout and you take a magnesium pill. Well, if you take that pill, it's going to get dispersed throughout your entire body and it'll get dispersed out to your tissues all over your body. Some of it will make it into your calf, but it'll take a long time to get there and you're not going to get a bunch there. When you use magnesium topically, you can literally take the magnesium chloride, rub it right on your calf. It'll get absorbed into those cells immediately and start to work right away. So, using it in this manner can not only help with sleep, it can help with especially an immediate stress response. As somebody who struggled with anxiety and panic attacks, taking a pill and having to wait 45 minutes, that was just torture for me. But being able to apply magnesium and have it help me calm down within a couple minutes, well, that was amazing for me. It was an amazing way for me to address my anxiety. So, I created a line of creams. They're all made with the highest concentration of magnesium chloride available on the market right now. So we actually have twice the amount of magnesium as our leading competitor. And it was formulated by chemists, by scientists who really understand magnesium and how it works in the body. So I took all of my research. I worked with 6 different chemists to really develop all of how the cream is going to work and how it's going to affect people. We launched about 2 years ago. We've sold out now 8 times. The response has been absolutely amazing. It's natural. There's no yucky chemicals or artificial fragrances in our products, and they work really, really well.
That's amazing. Tell me a little bit about that makes sense to me to put it on the calf if you're having calf cramps. Like if you we're having somebody's listening, they're having a panic attack or having problems sleeping. What is the best way to apply that?
So, particularly for anxiety, I always say put it on the area of skin that's very thin so that it gets into your bloodstream immediately. And so that's typically our chest, our shoulders. I tend to hold a lot of stress in my shoulders, especially if you're typing all day on a computer. That this area tends to really be tight and tense for people. So putting it there, putting it on your abdomen. I hold butterflies and anxiety in my stomach, so I like to put the cream there as well. If you're having a hard time sleeping, a great place to put it is right underneath your feet and all up your legs, especially if you have leg pain, cramping, or restless legs. It really does a great job of helping for that. And then if you're dealing with any kind of, isolated pain, so, things like arthritis or neck pain, at a certain age, falling asleep and sleeping in a weird position could totally mess up your day the next day. Like I felt like after I hit 40, that's when sleeping became a hazard. So putting the cream on my neck, especially when I sleep weird, or on my back, if my back is bothering me, can really help as well. Magnesium is a natural muscle relaxant. So if you have tight or tense muscles, when you put the magnesium on those areas, it really causes those muscles to relax quickly.
Really good. Well, I'll make sure I link to that in the show notes because, like I told you, I was excited to order, and I'll make sure our audience has that as well.
Absolutely.
Is there any good? I always like to ask favorite books, and it could be books not related to magnesium. It could be a book related to magnesium. Any favorites that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, the book that really kind of got me going down the rabbit hole, like I like to say, is The Magnesium Miracle by Dr. Carolyn Dean. She is like the on the forefront of magnesium research. She has been just in this field for decades and decades and has done an incredible job of compiling all the research out there into one easy to read book. If you've ever had questions about how magnesium interacts with cholesterol or how magnesium can help with diabetes, that book is just amazing.
Awesome. Okay, I'll make sure I link to that one as well. And then, what is the best way if people want to connect with you to learn more?
So our website is berootedin.com. And we are Be Rooted In across all social media channels, Facebook, Instagram. We're really big on TikTok. I'm on there practically every day answering questions and going live and really interacting with people. So if you have any questions that I didn't get to answer today, feel free to hit me up, especially on TikTok, and I'll be happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing all this. I know I learned a lot, and I think our audience will have too, and I'm excited to share that with them.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. This has been so much fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks all for joining Be the Person podcast. And always, it would mean the world to me if you left a 5-star review. Have a wonderful day.